Daniel lay in his 35th floor apartment, the thunder and rain outside creating a symphony of natural chaos. Lucid dreaming had become his escape from the troubles of the world. It was his sanctuary, a place where he could control his dreams and immerse himself in breathtaking adventures. His nights were an expedition across the canvas of his subconscious, soaring over cerulean waves and scaling the summits of distant mountains. The world within his mind was his sanctuary, his solace from the tribulations of reality. On this night, as Daniel slipped into the realm of dreams, something felt undeniably different. Instead of his usual sense of control, he found himself pulled into a place he had never visited before, a place that seemed to defy the boundaries of his own imagination. He was seated in an underground chamber that appeared to have been carved out of ancient rock. The sight was hauntingly beautiful, yet eerily deserted. Massive columns lined the hall that stretched before him, their chiseled details testament to the craftsmanship of another era. The ambient light, filtering in from an opening at the top of the cavern, cast a heavenly glow over the scene, creating an ethereal atmosphere. As he stood on a rocky outcrop overlooking this mesmerizing underground world, he realized that the cavern stretched out beneath him, revealing the true scope of its grandeur. Below lay the Labyrinth, a multi-level structure that seemed to combine architectural elements from both ancient Greek and Roman civilizations. Its design was a masterpiece of intricacy and complexity, featuring multiple layers of passageways, courtyards and alcoves, all connected in a seemingly endless network. However, the most captivating and imposing element of this dreamscape was the tall obelisk standing at the center of the labyrinth. It rose majestically from the labyrinth's heart, its presence magnetic and irresistible. It beckoned to him, drawing him closer with an almost hypnotic pull. Resigned to explore the mysterious place that had become his dreamscape prison, Daniel descended into the labyrinth through an intricately designed portico. As he crossed the threshold, he felt a shift in the air, a sense of entering a realm beyond his understanding. It was as if the very fabric of the dream world had changed, and he was no longer in control. As Daniel walked deeper into the labyrinth, the sense of dread that had initially washed over him only intensified. The statues seemed to stretch endlessly, covering the entire length of the walls on either side of the passageways. They depicted gods and goddesses, mythical creatures, and legendary figures from antiquity. Each figure was exquisitely detailed, with expressions that conveyed a haunting mix of serenity and malevolence. Meanwhile, in the shadows behind him, he glimpsed a figure, always lurking just out of sight. It was not human, and Daniel's attempts to communicate with it were met with silence. Determined to escape, he quickened his pace, the feeling of being pursued gnawing at him. As Daniel ventured deeper into the labyrinth, the eerie transformation of the statues continued to intensify. They took on a life of their own, defying the laws of stone and sculpture. Each encounter with these animate works of art sent a shiver down his spine, and he couldn't help but feel like an intruder in this surreal and unsettling dreamscape. A philosopher's bust, carved with exquisite detail, seemed to engage in a quiet and otherworldly conversation with itself. The words exchanged between the two sides of its head were incomprehensible to Daniel, a cryptic discourse that echoed through the labyrinthine halls like distant whispers from another realm. Again, each time he glanced back, the mysterious figure with its monstrous outline remained in the shadows, persistently following him. As Daniel ventured deeper into the maze, the statue's eerie animations intensified, and the sense of unease that had gripped him from the beginning grew stronger. Every step he took seemed to provoke a response from the stone figures. The statues took on a life of their own, and their actions became more unnerving. A stone finger tapped his shoulder, sending a jolt of fear through his body every time. He could feel the weight of their gaze on him, as if they were studying his every move. The sensation was suffocating, and he couldn't help but feel like they were waiting for the perfect moment to strike. One particularly unsettling moment occurred when a massive stone hand shoved him with such force that he staggered forward. His heart raced as he realized that these statues were not just inanimate objects, they had a malevolent intent. The most disturbing aspect, however, was the relentless pebbles that were thrown at him from different directions. Each tiny stone felt like a missile aimed at his head, causing him to instinctively cover the back of his skull with his hands. The constant barrage left him on edge, his nerves frayed, and his sense of dread deepening with each step. The statues seemed to be working in tandem, coordinating their efforts to torment him. Their unblinking stares bore into him, and he couldn't shake the feeling that at any moment they might come to life and lunge at him, shattering the fragile boundary between the real and the dream. Pressing onward, Daniel navigated the treacherous labyrinth with a growing sense of dread. The very walls seemed to shift and taunt him, as if the maze itself had taken on malevolent intelligence. Dead ends appeared suddenly, and what had seemed like a promising path would abruptly lead him into a narrow cul-de-sac. The very ground beneath him felt unstable and uncertain. In one heart-stopping moment, the ground gave way beneath his feet. He tumbled into darkness, his heart pounding as he feared the worst. But fortune favored him, and he managed to grab onto the edge just in time, his fingers scraping against the rough stone. Below him, in the inky abyss, he could see the monstrous form of a hydra with 10 writhing heads, each one poised to devour him had he fallen. The hydra's eyes glinted with malevolence, and its gaping maws snapped hungrily, eager for its prey. With every ounce of strength and determination, Daniel pulled himself up, his muscles straining against the abyss's relentless pull. His palms were raw and his heart raced, but he managed to regain his footing on solid ground. Beads of sweat trickled down his face as he realized how close he had come to becoming the hydra's meal. The labyrinth's dark and winding paths eventually led Daniel to a series of staircases that spiraled up and down, seemingly without rhyme or reason. The surreal nature of the maze was now amplified as he faced a new set of bewildering challenges. Some of the staircases led to oblivion, their steps descending into a bottomless abyss that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Other staircases seemed to lead nowhere at all, ascending or descending into featureless walls or inexplicable dead ends. It was as though the labyrinth delighted in presenting him with maddening choices, each more disorienting than the last. Despite the disconcerting nature of these challenges, Daniel's determination remained unwavering. He was resolute in his quest to reach the towering obelisk at the heart of the maze. Each obstacle he overcame only fueled his resolve, pushing him forward with an unyielding determination to confront the mysteries and horrors that lay ahead. Exhausted and disheartened by the seemingly endless twists and turns of the labyrinth, Daniel decided to take a moment to rest. He leaned against the cold stone wall, hoping that a brief respite would allow him to gather his strength and perhaps even awaken back in the safety of his apartment. His weary body longed for the familiar comforts of his own bed. Closing his eyes, he allowed the darkness to wash over him, hoping that sleep would transport him from this bewildering nightmare. But what felt like an eternity passed, and when he finally roused from his brief slumber, his senses were immediately assaulted by an unwelcome sensation, a trickle of water on his forehead. As he opened his eyes, he realized to his dismay that he was still within the labyrinth. He blinked in disbelief, unable to comprehend how he had not awakened in his apartment as he had so desperately wished. It was as though the dream world had a cruel grip on him, refusing to release its hold. His confusion turned to outrage as he looked around and saw a statue of Cupid in a niche above him, its stone form frozen in a crude and lewd posture. The statue had urinated on him, and frustration boiled over inside him. In an instant he couldn't contain his anger any longer, and he grabbed the Cupid figurine, hurling it with all his might onto the cold stone floor. The moment the statue shattered, the very fabric of the labyrinth seemed to tremble. The statues around him, previously frozen in their eerie stillness, suddenly came to life, with grotesque and unnatural contortions. They twisted and writhed, their stone faces contorted in expressions of agony and rage. In an unbearable cacophony of sound, the statues screamed, their voices piercing the air and echoing through the maze. They cried out, "Murderer!" in a haunting chorus that reverberated through Daniel's mind. The sound was overwhelming, a nightmarish symphony of accusation that left him paralyzed with fear. Desperation surged within him, and he knew he had to escape this nightmarish ordeal. Without a moment's hesitation, he turned and fled, his footsteps echoing through the labyrinth's twisting corridors. The statues, now animated and unhinged, followed him in a frenzied pursuit. They began to fall from their pedestals, hurling themselves at him with a fury born of their newfound life. With each step he took, the labyrinth seemed to crumble around him, and the once still statues became a relentless tide of stone and marble, crashing down with the intent to crush him. Daniel's heart raced as he sprinted through the maze, his every breath a gasp of terror. He knew that, breathless and heart-pounding, Daniel was hit by falling debris and knocked unconscious. With no recollection or memory of how he got there, he concluded this must be the center of the labyrinth. Now in front of him stood the ominous obelisk that had beckoned him since the beginning of his nightmarish journey. Its presence loomed large, casting eerie shadows in the dim light of the underground chamber. Further back, if he had looked, the monstrous figure observed him at a distance. An entrance marked the gateway to the next phase of his surreal ordeal. Stairs descended into the depths of a dark underground chamber where the very air seemed to pulse with ancient energy. It was a chamber of secrets, and the weight of centuries pressed down upon him as he descended the stairs. Inside the chamber, he encountered colossal caryatids, sculpted in the form of women, their cold stone eyes following his every move with an unyielding gaze. They stood tall and unmoving, like sentinels guarding the enigma that lay at the heart of the labyrinth. One of the caryatids broke the eerie stillness. It moved its stone arm, a slow and deliberate gesture that seemed to beckon him deeper into the chamber. The others remained unmoved, their gaze never wavering from him. With cautious steps, Daniel followed the beckoning caryatid, his heart pounding in his chest as he ventured further into the chamber. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation, and a sense of foreboding hung in the air like a shroud. At the chamber's heart, he encountered the enigmatic Sphinx. Its head was that of a man, its body that of a lion, and its wings, reminiscent of an eagle, extended regally from its powerful form. The Sphinx's eyes, however, held a depth of knowledge that transcended mere mortal understanding.
Congratulations.
The Sphinx intoned, its voice echoing through the chamber.
You have made it to the center of the maze. Only a few share that honor. Only those that succeed have a special quality or ability about them.
Daniel could feel the Sphinx's gaze penetrating his very soul. And he knew that he was now at a pivotal moment in his nightmarish journey.
You are trapped within the dream labyrinth.
The Sphinx continued, its voice carrying an air of ancient wisdom.
To escape this nightmare, you must answer my riddle. Fail, and I shall have you for my meal. Succeed, and I shall guide you on your way.
The weight of the Sphinx's words hung heavily in the air, and Daniel knew that he had no choice but to face the challenge that lay before him. The chamber seemed to hold its breath, awaiting his response. With trepidation and determination, he braced himself for the Sphinx's riddle, knowing that his fate hung in the balance. As Daniel stood before the enigmatic Sphinx, ready to face its riddle, a sudden interruption shattered the tense atmosphere of the chamber. Emerging from the shadows was a muscular and horned figure, a satyr of mythological origin. The satyr exuded an air of confidence and readiness, his presence commanding attention.
You're that thing that's been following me all this time.
Daniel exclaimed, his surprise evident in his voice.
My name is Lycos.
The satyr declared with a firm resolve, his large horns accentuating his powerful appearance.
And I will champion him,
he announced, his gaze unwaveringly fixed on the Sphinx. The Sphinx, while unyielding in its demeanor, seemed to consider the proposition for a moment. It bore witness to countless souls who had attempted to escape the dream labyrinth, and Daniel's arrival had piqued its curiosity.
Very well.
The Sphinx conceded, its voice echoing through the chamber.
You shall make a fine addition to my warriors in stone.
As the tension in the chamber escalated, a mighty stone figure of Hercules entered the arena, brandishing a massive club that appeared as though it could shatter mountains. The stone Hercules, sculpted with unparalleled craftsmanship, exuded an aura of indomitable strength. It stood as a formidable adversary, ready to face off against Lycos and prove its worth. The battle that ensued was nothing short of epic. Lycos, the horned satyr, and the stone Hercules clashed in a fierce and titanic struggle. They exchanged blows, each strike echoing through the chamber with an earth-shaking force. Lycos, with his agility and cunning, dodged and evaded the stone Hercules' powerful attacks, but the stoic stone figure proved to be an unyielding opponent. With each passing moment, the battle grew more intense. Lycos, despite his resilience and agility, began to show signs of fatigue. The relentless onslaught from the stone Hercules was taking its toll, and Daniel watched with growing concern. The outcome of the battle was uncertain, and the stakes were high. The enigmatic Sphinx observed the contest with an impassive demeanor, its eyes locked on the combatants. The chamber reverberated with the sounds of clashing forces and the struggle for dominance. Daniel could feel his anxiety mounting as he witnessed Lycos' struggles against the unyielding stone figure. He knew that the outcome of this battle would determine their fate within the dream labyrinth. With each passing moment, His hope rested on the strength and resilience of his unexpected champion, hoping that Lycos could somehow prevail against the formidable adversary and secure their escape from this nightmarish dreamscape. In the midst of the intense battle between Lycos and the stone Hercules, a voice spoke to Daniel. It spoke in a hushed and encouraging tone, urging him to harness his unique gift, the power of lucid dreaming. After all, this was just a dream or nightmare, right? The whispered words penetrated Daniel's consciousness, and he felt a surge of newfound determination welling up within him. The realization dawned that he possessed the ability to shape and manipulate the dream world around him, to wield the very fabric of his own subconscious. With a fierce focus of intent, Daniel directed his newfound power towards the stone Hercules. As if responding to his will, the formidable statue began to tremble and crack, its stony form splintering into rubble with a resounding explosion. The debris scattered across the chamber, leaving behind a shattered visage of the once mighty Hercules. With the stone Hercules defeated, Lycos, who had been lying on the ground, began to stir. The pain that had previously plagued him seemed to vanish, replaced by a newfound vitality. He rose to his feet, his strength renewed and his body free from the injuries inflicted during the battle. The Sphinx, bound to the labyrinth, could not follow them as Daniel and Lycos reappeared in another zone away from the labyrinth.
The labyrinth was a punishment from Hades himself. It was created as a consequence for the Sphinx's failure to prevent Oedipus from solving his riddle and reaching Thebes.
The voice explained, its words resonating through the chamber. Daniel turned to face the source of the voice, and there before him materialized an enigmatic figure. It was Hypnos, the Greek deity of dreams and sleep, cloaked in the mists of myth.
Daniel and many others before you possess the unique ability of lucid dreaming, a skill that the Sphinx craved to strengthen his power to escape this prison. In devouring you, he sought to absorb your gift and wield it as his own. At the apex of the battle between the stone Hercules and Lycos, I managed to block the Sphinx's hold on your powers. That is why you were able to manipulate the situation in time.
Daniel listened with a mixture of astonishment and understanding. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, revealing the true nature of the labyrinth and the role he played in its enigmatic design.
I sent Lycos to make sure you are protected. I cannot set foot within the labyrinth itself.
Hypnos declared, confirming the presence and purpose of the horned satyr who had become Daniel's unexpected champion. With a nod of acknowledgement, Hypnos vanished into the very fabric of the dream world, dissolving into the ether as if he had never been. His duty fulfilled, he had played his part in guiding Daniel through the labyrinth's trials, ensuring that the power of lucid dreaming remained untarnished and unbound. Daniel awoke to the sound of the storm's last whispers, the city bathed in the serene glow of a post-storm dawn. His apartment, once a cage of glass and steel, now stood as the threshold to infinite possibilities. As he looked out upon the waking world, he knew that the labyrinth was no longer his prison, but a memory of the power he held within, a testament to the depths of his own subconscious and the endless potential of his lucid dreams.